Hello, and welcome to Unleashing Your Innovative Potential. Becoming an innovative thinker requires cultivating key habits and skills. So, during this session today, we're going to talk about those essential abilities that set apart the most creative and innovative minds. So, my name is Al McLeod, and my background is had a 40-year plus year career as a technologist and an innovator. I worked for lots of companies, but my two coolest roles were Chief Technology Officer for Canwest Global and the Vice President of Innovation for Wellness Insurance. I retired in 2019. I started an innovation consulting company, mostly consulting to corporations. I joined North Forge as an entrepreneur in residence. I co-founded a startup with two other guys, and I became chair of the ACE-Space Advisory Committee, which was my coolest role. So I work with various academic institutions, including Red River College Polytech, U of M, U of W, ComIT, which is a social organization training people in IT. I work with them, I collaborate with them on different kinds of projects. I do guest lectures and teaching and all sorts of different kind of things with my academic partners. I also am a startup advisor to a number of startups. Last count, I think about probably somewhere around eight, I think it is, startups that I work with. I also really enjoy working with innovation and generative AI. So I'm a design thinking specialist. I train in it. I use it kind of all the time. And I also have become a generative AI expert. I teach it, and I'm a member of the Manitoba Association of AI Professionals. So let's start. So what is innovation? Innovation is really creativity with purpose. Creativity unto its own doesn't really do anything. It has to be implemented. So innovation is about the ability to take those creative ideas and turn them into tangible solutions that address real world problems. It's about disruptive thinking. Innovative thinkers challenge the status quo and push the boundaries of what's possible. And continuous improvement. Innovation is an iterative process where failures are embraced as opportunities for growth. Really, you learn through failure. So this graphic is called the innovation sweet spot. And so there's these four different lenses that we look at innovation through. The desirability lens is about people. And so do customers want it and need it? The viability lens is about whether or not we have a suitable business model. So can we make money? Is there a business case for it? Feasibility is, can we do it? Can we build whatever it is? Does the technology exist today? And finally, integrity is about making sure whatever innovation we implement doesn't impact society negatively or the planet negatively as a whole. And when we're talking about innovation, we often usually go in, frankly, through the human-centered lens or desirability to make sure we're solving a problem for people who have a challenge. So some of the barriers to innovative thinking are cognitive biases, like our inherent mental shortcuts and preconceptions, and those can limit our ability to see things from new perspectives when we're trying to innovate. Fear of failure is about the fear of taking risks and the potential for failure, and can stifle innovative ideas before they have a chance to grow. And the organizational culture you're in, if it's rigid and hierarchical or risk averse, can discourage the exploration of new ideas and doing things differently. So what we want to do is counteract these issues. So the first one is cognitive biases. Develop a beginner's mindset, which really means to, even though you have expertise in something, look at it like you're a beginner. Allow yourself to doubt and to explore new options as if you're a beginner, and practice it when coming up with ideas, that beginner's mindset. Learn to spot your biases, put them aside, and call others on their biases. Second, fear of failure. Develop creative confidence. There's a book of the same name by Tom Kelly from IDEO, a great design thinking organization. And really, it's about finding the way through experimenting and learning through small failures to become creative in your confidence. Cultivate a growth mindset, which is all about exploring, continuous learning, and knowing that if you take the time to learn something, you can become an expert at it. And failure is part of learning. Start small. And for organizational culture, use your political acumen to develop relationships and build a network of supported entrepreneurs. Meet to explore ideas and support the crap out of each other. And try to seek support from your immediate manager and at least one member of the executive team. That's a bonus if you can get an executive team member, very helpful. So the foundation of a really good innovator is being empathetic and having curiosity. Empathy is about really wanting to see things from another person's point of view and caring about their point of view and really understanding it. Curiosity is about trying to understand what's going on. Like being a person who's curious is somebody who's always asking why and always looking at things with wonder and trying to figure out how they work. So let's start with a quick exercise. So we'll call this the airport travel challenge. And the question we've been asked is, how might we reduce airport wait times for passengers? So this is a tough question because, as you can imagine, the airline industry, travel industry is very complicated. And so thinking we're going to reduce wait times is very complicated. And it's probably possible. There's things we could do, but do you have any ideas for how we could reduce airport wait times for passengers? So you think about that for a minute, you start to think about, okay, so who are the passengers? Well, it doesn't matter who the passengers are if we're just reducing all wait times. So then you start to think about the mechanisms of how air travel works, right? But what about if you reframe the question? What about instead of asking how we reduce airport wait times for passengers, we say, how might we make airport wait time more fun for families? So what we're doing there is we're reframing it from how can we fix the wait times, which may not be fixable, to how can we make waiting more enjoyable. It allows you to focus on a problem for specific humans who have a specific problem. In this case, children don't like to wait for hours in an airport, in a sterile, boring airport, who have a specific problem we're solving, and that's families wanting to actually be able to survive this travel. By the way, it has an effect on other passengers too, because unhappy children will be noisy and things like that. So reframing the question helps to break mental blocks and encourages creative thinking by altering how we perceive challenges. Keep that in mind. So now we're going to talk about the innovator's DNA. It's a book that was written a number of years ago by Jeff Dyer, Hal Gregerson, and Clayton Christensen. And what they did was they looked at Silicon Valley entrepreneurs who had created big companies and said, what's special about them? Talked to them and found out, how did you create these big companies? How did you get these great ideas? And they found out that those innovators had similar kinds of skills. Now, some of them used different skills more than others and things like that, but the same 5 skills were present. Then they worked with CEOs and talked to different CEOs of companies, regular corporations, and found that these skills were not kind of that evident amongst the CEOs. And so what you can do is you can take these skills and you can learn them. So let's look and practice them, which I do, by the way. So the 5 skills are networking, connecting with diverse individuals to expand your knowledge and perspective, questioning, which is challenging the status quo and seeking different perspectives, observing, which is seeing the world with fresh eyes to uncover hidden insights, experimenting, which is trying new approaches and learning from successes and failures, and associating, which is connecting seemingly unrelated concepts to spark new ideas. So the first skill is questioning, challenging the status quo. So you're curiosity is that superpower we talked about. So innovative thinkers are driven by a deep curiosity to understand how and why things work the way they do. Once they find that, they can then use that knowledge in their solutions. Contrarian thinking is about questioning accepted norms and assumptions, which can lead to breakthrough ideas and disruptive innovation. Asking open questions is going for like stories and insights as opposed to yes and no answers. You don't want yes and no answers when you're innovating. And you practice empathetic and generative listening. So you're listening so that you can understand the point of view of the person, but also understanding so that you can actually do something with the information they give you. One famous entrepreneur who achieved tremendous success due to their constant questioning and curiosity was Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. So he always challenged the status quo. He asked why technology had to be clunky or complicated or inaccessible to regular people. He questioned product design. He asked why can't it be better? He had curiosity about customer experience, like what makes a great product. So he watched customers a lot. He reinvented entire industries. Like he said, why can't we carry all the music with us? And from there, the music industry changed. And curiosity driven partnerships. So he's curious about the potential, for example, of computer animation, which drove their partnership with Pixar, which changed, some elements of the movie industry. So he was always a rebel. And in fact, he had this saying, it's better to be a pirate than to join the Navy. And they had this, Apple had this kind of little logo that they created with the pirate ship. Anyway, the bottom line is that Steve Jobs always said, question why we're doing that. Jeff Bezos is another questioner, and he asked the question, why aren't books sold online? That's a really, really good question. And the answer was they can be, and he did that. So observing is about seeing the world with fresh eyes. It's about paying attention to detail. And what we do is we closely observe the world around them and noticing subtle patterns and trends and anomalies. Identifying opportunities by seeing the world in familiar ways. In new ways, I should say. They can uncover unmet needs and gaps in the market. And empathy is about understanding the experience and perspectives of others, inspire solutions to real problems. So attention to detail, identifying opportunities, and empathy. That's observing. And sorry, sticky key. And so Airbnb co-founders used observation to create their very, very successful startup. In 2007, the Airbnb co-founders Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia were struggling to pay rent in their apartment in San Francisco. Their observation skills played a crucial role in the idea they created Airbnb. So the first observation was that looking around San Francisco, they noticed a growing demand for lodging during a design conference, but the hotels were fully booked, leaving attendees with limited options. Instead of seeing this as an isolated issue, they viewed it as a larger recurring problem, finding affordable and convenient accommodations in cities during high demand events. So they framed the problem as, how can we help people find affordable places to stay when hotels are unavailable or expensive? This shift in perspective was rooted in their ability to see beyond the immediate and recognize a broader market opportunity. They identified an untapped resource, people's homes, that could be leveraged to solve the problem. So they created a prototype. So they decided to offer a temporary solution by inflating 3 air mattresses in their apartment and offering air bread and breakfast to conference attendees. The simple experimental prototype confirmed their observation. People were willing to stay in others' homes when traditional accommodations were unavailable or too costly. It also helped them validate the potential of peer-to-peer hospitality. So to scale the idea, they expanded on it using their observation skills to analyze the behavior of both sides of the equation, the travelers and the host. They realized that many people would be open to renting out a spare room or their entire home for extra income, and many travelers would prefer this alternative to hotels. The insight was key to scaling Airbnb into a platform that connected both those groups. In conclusion, the Airbnb success shows how observing unmet needs and leveraging existing resources, in this case of people's homes, can lead to innovation. Their ability to spot opportunity in the limitations of the hotel industry and then reframe the issue helped them build a global business. And it shows how curiosity, empathy, and careful observation can spark great entrepreneurial ideas. So next observation is, again, Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs really spent a lot of time observing, plus questioning, of course, but he was observing his customers, really understanding them, watching them use his products. And when he came time to make a decision, he kind of went contrary to many people who were talking about maybe the death of retail and all that kind of stuff. And he went the other way and said, no, we're going to build, we know what to do. We're going to build a store. Even though conventional wisdom said not to do that, they built a store, a very successful store, and they did it different, right? Their stores are different. They're unlike anything else out there. And that's because of his observational capabilities. So experiments is about trying new approaches. So ideating, which is generating a range of ideas, practical, unconventional, all kinds of ideas. Prototyping them, like testing them, refining them through iterative experimentation. learning, analyzing the results, learning from failures, and applies those insights to future experiments. And the person I think represents experimentation the best is Sarah Blakely. So Sarah Blakely created Spanx, and her journey to success is a really story of experimentation and being persistent. She used a series of small, low-risk experiments to define and refine her project, eventually turning her idea into a billion-dollar business. So she was working as a door-to-door salesperson. She struggled with finding the right undergarment that would smooth out her figure without showing lines. She wanted a solution that didn't exist in the market, something that would smooth the appearance of her body when wearing white pants that didn't involve wearing bulky undergarments. This personal frustration became the seed for Spanx. So she started by prototyping with DIY solutions. She cut the bottoms off a pair of pantyhose and wore those under her pants, and that got her thinking about how she could do something. But she then tested prototypes with friends and families. That created a bunch of prototypes. The next step was to start to work with manufacturers, and she had a hard time finding one. But when she did, she started experimenting with all kinds of fabrics, designs, and stuff like that. And then once she got a working product, she tested packaging and branding because she thought that the packaging and branding available in women's clothing at the time was quite boring. And she wanted something that was, a lot nicer and flashier and would appeal to women. And then the next step was once her products got into stores, she started to get early feedback. And what she would have to do is pitch in the stores. And even when she pitched in the stores, sometimes she would even have to model the undergarments themselves in the washroom and stuff like that. And she got early feedback. Very scrappy though. And then once it started to be used by customers, she got feedback from customers, and she took that feedback and she started to do experiments there, where she was getting feedback from customers, doing rapid experimentation. Once she started to get momentum, she began to slow, but she did that slowly and deliberately using experiments again to see what kind of retail outlets work best and, using a bunch of different experiments to scale. And finally, she experimented with creative marketing. Here, she was actually able to hit Oprah's field of vision by sending her some samples of the Spanx, and Oprah featured her on her products she loves list in 2000. And of course, that catapulted her. She also had lots of other influencers that she attracted as well. So she experimented a lot with creative marketing. Very successful and still kind of successful. She stayed very, very involved in the product, very successful. Okay, so networking is about connecting with diverse individuals, cross-pollinating with people from different backgrounds and industries, which can spark new ideas and solutions, collaborating synergistically, so innovators seek out diverse perspectives and leverage collective knowledge to solve complex problems. Accessing resources so you can have a strong idea network can provide access to expertise, valuable resources, and opportunities. So Melanie Perkins is one of the best examples of this. And she's the co-founder and CEO of Canva, an online graphic design platform valued at billions of dollars. You may have used it. Most people have. So she used networking. She was faced initial rejections from investors in her home country of Australia. And so she expanded internationally. She connected with Silicon Valley investor Bill Tai by attending his kite surfing events, which were informal network gatherings. Through persistence in building relationships with these networks, she secured significant funding and assembled a team of advisors and engineers who were instrumental in developing Canva's technology. Today, it's used by millions worldwide. Canva is. It's simplifying graphic design for amateurs and professionals. So she built relationships. This is what successful networkers do. They build relationships. They reach out beyond their immediate circles, connecting with investors and mentors and industry peers who can provide feedback on their ideas, resources, and guidance. Very invaluable. Very valuable. Leveraging events and platforms by attending conferences, networking events, and utilizing online platforms. They expanded their reach and visibility. And through persistence, facing initial rejections or obstacles, they continue to engage with their networks, understanding that building trust and interest takes time. And her story highlights that networking isn't just about who you know, but how you engage with people to create mutually beneficial relationships that support innovation and growth. Great story, Melanie Perkins. Tech Thursday is another interesting thing. So Tech Thursday is an event that happens in Winnipeg and a couple other cities in Canada every Thursday, put on by a bunch of forward-looking companies and entrepreneurs. And what it is, it's a platform that every Thursday evening, there's some education, and then there's networking and opportunities for hiring and all sorts of great events. But it's just a terrific networking event. And the final skill is associating, which is connecting seemingly unrelated concepts. So this brings it all together. So you've got all these other, this is the cognitive skill. So insights collected using the other four skills are used as building blocks. So if you question someone, you come up with something. And if you observe something, those are two different building blocks that can be put together. And the brain synthesizes and makes sense of these new inputs that make connections across seemingly unrelated questions, problems, and ideas. And innovators are always curious, seeking to understand how different ideas, technologies, and industries intersect. And I know I just can get taken in with watching how some of this stuff works. And finding analogies, they're a great way of using one concept to inspire an innovative solution in an unrelated domain. The idea for Tesla's autopilot came from airplanes and looking for odd combinations. So the roller pen and pen were connected by Helen Barnett in 1952 when she created roll-on deodorant, still a successful product today. So that's what associating is all about. And so associating is the magic sauce. It's one thing that I spent a lot of time practicing and using. I'm really good at it because I practice it, and I recommend you do it as well. So Steve Jobs famously said, creativity is just connecting things. And he's right. You know, creativity, of course, leads to innovation. Creativity is just about taking two things, putting them together to create something that's unique. So Starbucks is an example. So the CEO of Starbucks was in Italy in around 1983, and he was touring the coffee shops and coffee houses, and he thought, wow, this would work really well back in Seattle. And so he did. He started Starbucks in Seattle, and of course, it's become a huge success. But just him being able to see the vision of him being able to see this model working in Seattle was important. This is one of my favorites. It's about the doctors who sought advice from Formula One. This is a UK-based story. So these doctors were in the neonatal surgical center, and so they did surgery on very young babies who had especially heart problems. So one day they were working on a particularly challenging problem. Surgery took something like 12 hours. They were exhausted by the time they're finished. They're sitting in their break room, and a Formula One race is on, and they see the car pull into the pit area. Pit crew run out. 7 seconds later, the car is gone, and they looked at each other and they went, "Hey, why can't we operate it like that?" And that started this relationship between this medical institution and Formula One. And so they actually collaborated with Formula One to look at how Formula One has, how they can actually be so efficient and how the hospital could fix some of their processes. Because the biggest issue wasn't the actual surgery that wasn't the highest risk. The risk was actually the transfer of the baby from the surgery into the critical care. That was the actual handoff. That handoff was the single riskiest point in the whole operation, which obviously, doesn't make sense, but that's what it was. So they sought advice from Formula One, and it worked, by the way. And the final one is, Mike Lazaridis, famously from BlackBerry, Research in Motion, I should say, and he created the BlackBerry, and he did that by combining the wireless, which is still a relatively new technology at the time for computers, and the computer in a smaller form factor with a keyboard. And this is the first BlackBerry 5810, first true smartphone from RIM, released in 2002, a very, very big success. And this made them a big, gave them a big presence in the mobile communications market. It's combining two things, wireless and computer. So let's do a live exercise. So let's talk about practicing connecting things via the Creative Spark Coach. This is a chatbot that I created using ChatGPT, and I went and created this chatbot to help me practice and help me show how to practice innovation skills. So here's the chatbot, and it has a bunch of different kinds of games it can play to teach you or practice you can do. So we'll do a this meets that. So we'll do this meets that organization. Okay. And so we've got National Geographic and Lego. So what could a collaboration between them look like? And so we can have, Lego sets reconstructing various eco environments. It's one thing. The other one is you could have now let's do that one first. Yeah, so they can reconstruct eco environments using Lego. And you can have Lego style variants of versions of plants and animals and terrain feature fish and then they said you could also have mini National Geographic fact cards that come with each set. And so it's just a way of someone who actually was a Lego fan, also a National Geographic fan, could do that together. And so let's do another. Oh, here's another split. Okay. Sorry, I asked another and it meant another spin on it. So I'm going to say another this versus that. Okay, Spotify and Airbnb. And so there, Spotify and Airbnb, you could have Spotify special playlists for various rentals, especially curated for Airbnb. So they can Spotify playlist tailored for specific Airbnbs, whole new level of ambiance. And so if you're in a cozy cabin, it could be a mountain escape. That's exactly what I was thinking, right? Is that it would be tailored to the kind of Airbnb. So the idea here is that what you're doing is you're taking both of these ideas and both of these companies and putting them together, forcing them together to come up with products. And it's got all sorts of other little games you can play here. And you can use this, by the way, because in here you've got the address of it, the URL of it, so you can access it. Okay, so now let's talk about harnessing the innovator's DNA. So now you've seen the 5 skills. So you got cultivating curiosity, which is staying curious and actively seeking out new information, experience, and perspectives. Challenging assumptions, questioning the status quo, and approach problems from unconventional angles. Embrace empathy, which is understanding the needs, motivations of others to drive innovative solutions. Experiment fearlessly, take risks, learn from failures, and continuously refine your ideas. Collaborate widely. Engage with diverse individuals and leverage the power of collective knowledge and expertise. That is the innovator's DNA. The other one, this happened since the book was actually published, is generative AI. I use generative AI for everything. And so it's a great to use it as to assist in the creative process, but it's a co-pilot, not an autopilot. You don't say, here, just do this for me. You basically work with it. It won't do the whole job, but it's a terrific assistant stack. It'll do ideation, research, image creation, associating, and so many more things. So If you're using the discovery skills in the creative process, it kind of looks like this. You've got associating is your mental skill in the middle that actually ties these things together. You've got questioning, observing, networking, experimenting, which are things as you're going through your day, you're seeing these things. Associating is something that happens when you force it to, but it also can just happen anytime. And it can happen purposely, it can happen cooperatively. And that's what this is about. It's about having these kind of different, I think of them as different engines that fire and come up with ideas. Okay, so here's some techniques to spark creativity. Mind mapping is visually organizing ideas and associations to uncover unexpected connections and new perspectives. Collaborative ideation is engaging in group brainstorming to build on each other's ideas and create synergies. Diversity is amazing there. Lateral thinking is approaching problems from unconventional angles to challenge assumptions and generate novel solutions. And inspiration gathering is about seeking inspiration from diverse sources like nature, art, other industries to simulate new ideas. So here's a live exercise we're going to do on mind mapping. Mind mapping is one of my favorite tools. And because when you see when it's completed, you'll see it reminds me of the brain. And that's the point. That's why it's called mind mapping, because it actually is kind of like, a version of a brain where you've got all these different ideas together, or pieces of information together. So for insights, MPI, Manitoba Public Insurance in 2020, there were over 57,000 vehicles involved in collisions, 112 were involved in fatal collisions, 9,600 involved in injury, and 47,000 in property damage. Most prevalent contributing factors for collisions where people are killed or seriously injured were distracted driving, impaired speed, failed to yield, and lost control. So those are the serious ones. So those are the issues in this thing we're going to actually try and figure out how we can deal with. So here's some stimulus for your brain. Vision Zero was a safe systems approach to road safety with these 4 layers: safe drivers, safe speed, safe roads, and safe vehicles. It's a traffic safety policy developed in Sweden in the late 90s and implemented there. The attempt is to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safety, healthy, and equitable mobility. So one insight is that speed kills. If you're hit by a car when you're going 30 kilometers an hour, you have a 9 in 10 chance of survival. And if you're hit by someone going 70, you have a 0 in 10 chance of survival. And also the stopping distance is really a big difference when it's, you've got a thinking distance and then stopping distance. And so the thinking distance, just knowing to stop, is you're traveling this far before you actually hit your brakes. Okay. So here's some stimulus. So I have an app that I use with my Lexus, and it basically records all my driving by trip, and it records in particular harsh cornering, fast acceleration, harsh braking as signs of poor driving. So I have an excellent score here, it says, but I know I can improve. But the idea is this is an opportunity for you to go through and actually have your score tracked by your technology. So here is what a mind map looks like. This is the start of a mind map. So you put your issue at the beginning here. How might we make Manitoba roads safer for everyone? And then you put down here a bunch of categories or first thoughts. So we've got safe speed, safe drivers, safe vehicles, and safe roads. That's the 4 items from our framework. But then we add carrot and stick, which means punishment or reward, alternative transportation, which is obviously an option, and using some tech, data, and AI. And then what we do is you start to generate ideas. And so here's what it looks like when you're finished. So you've still got these categories here, and then for each category, you end up with a lot of information. So here, how might we make them? Here's a stick option. Come up with these things called stupid citations. So if you're driving stupid, you get a suspended license, you get increased insurance, higher payment for years, special tech in car to limit the ability to offend, almost like an ankle bracelet concept. If driving high score, limit driving by the tech. You give them a timeout, force them to pull over the side of the road. Alternative transportation, light rapid transit, encourage solutions to reduce number of cars, tax breaks for the use of alternative transport, better road design for bicycles, pedestrians, etc. The idea is, as you can see, if you do this properly, you have dozens and dozens of pieces of information, observations or ideas, whatever you want to call them. Then what you can do is you can actually combine ideas together. So you can say, what if I combine something from here with something from here and something from here and here and here, and we can come up with a bigger idea around how we could use telematics, onboard telematics from vehicles to reduce poor driving. So that's what mind mapping is. Okay. And you can see the power of that. So I'm going to talk quickly about moderate procrastination, which is about giving your subconscious mind time to work. So whatever problem you're trying to develop a creative solution for, let's say it's road safety, make sure you start the process with enough time before you have to have ideas generated, right? Because it takes some time. I'll explain why. Do some research on the product topic, make some notes. You saw that we had the safe road, safe drivers, all those kind of things. Talk to some people about the problem, make notes, create a mind map to capture initial thoughts on the problem. That's the last step we took. Let it percolate now for a few days. Put the mind map away. But when you're daydreaming or on a walk, or when you wake up before your alarm goes off and you're in that semi-awake state, let the problem come into your head and just kind of let it roll around, and the ideas will start to come. It happens with me every time. This is because your subconscious mind has been playing with the idea without you even knowing it. And be ready to capture the ideas, because this works. And just rinse and repeat. So if you kind of still have some more time, you can record those ideas, do something with them, but then wait until. Okay, so reflection. So what did we learn today? So we learned that reframing helps to break mental blocks and encourages creative thinking by altering how we perceive challenges. We learned how to deal with barriers to innovation. We learned the importance of empathy and curiosity. We talked about the 5 skills of the best innovators. We practiced a little bit of innovation skills. You saw I should introduce you a tool you can use to practice it. We talked a little bit about using generative AI as an innovation co-pilot, not an autopilot. And mind mapping is a great solo or team innovation tool. And finally, moderate procrastination is a way to engage your subconscious mind and come up with the really great ideas. And that's it. Thank you very much. And if there's any questions, you can just put them in the chat and we will talk about them later. Thank you.